My name is Soroush, and I'm the head of engineering here at Vow. Vow is based here in Sydney, Australia, and we are a cultured meat company. So we're trying to produce meat without having to raise and kill an animal for a whole host of environmental, culinary, health, and ethical reasons. And specifically for us here at Vow, we're trying to really find the world's best meat, to put it simply, like to find the best cells that perform the best as food, whether that's from a culinary perspective, nutritionally. So we're really trying to go out there and create meat that's never been tasted before, that's better and more delicious and more nutritional than anything that's existed before. So it's actually interesting. At Vow, we are not externally as a product, a software company. We're a food company. So as an engineer here, as an engineering team, well, everything is focused on internal innovation. The external product is just food. So we use internal tools to give our scientists, food scientists, operations people, the tools they need to be able to work as productively as possible. And actually, to put it like even a little bit more strongly, our whole focus as an engineering team is to make every single one of our team members the most leveraged they can be. And we're talking 10 or 100 or 1,000x more productive than they would be without these tools. So it's a huge focus of the engineering team. So we actually here at Val, we build both hardware and software tools. So I'll put them into kind of three big buckets, and I'll focus on the concrete ones, the ones that exist today that people are really using. So we, in science, especially in cell biology, there's a big emphasis on microscope imaging. So we have a big imaging pipeline where we provide hardware and software to make it really easy for people to capture images on a microscope and then process and analyze those things at scale. So that's really important. Another is our liquid handling. So lots and lots of cell biology is moving liquids around like this. And there's liquid handling robotics like the Opentrons, and we provide tools and apps around that. So whether that be protocols for these robotics or for kind of apps for scientists to interact with them. And then finally, and this is like a piece that kind of is underlying all of it, is data systems. So, and this is actually where we use Retool as well for our internal key, like core data app. But whether it's our inventory or our cell samples or our like going through cleanup in the lab, there's lots and lots of tools that help us track those things, track those assets, and keep track of what's happening with them. And then we connect them up to systems like business intelligence or dashboards or reporting or tooling to make use of that data as well. So imaging, liquid handling, and data systems are kind of three big areas of concrete internal tools that we ship here to the team. Our stack is a little deeper than most because it starts at biology. So we've got cells that we have to really understand, and we work with mammalian cells. So all kinds of animal cells, from cow to alpaca to all of it, buffalo, all these different things. And so we got cell biology. Then we have kind of IoT systems. So we've got things like the Raspberry Pi and Arduinos. And then we've got some larger computers. So we've got NUCs and other lab computers here in the lab and across the office as well. And then our backend systems are backed by Postgres and TypeScript. And that's kind of our core API. We've also got some Python in there as well, especially for things like data science and image processing. And then our front end, we have some custom React apps. We also have some Retool front end apps. And we've also kind of used some no-code tools beyond Retool as well, such as Airtable. And that's been kind of a transition from smaller systems that we use for prototyping, transitioning into kind of larger scale systems in Postgres and TypeScript. Where to start on that one? That's a big one. I'll say, I won't say, maybe frustrating is the wrong word, but the most challenging thing for us has been that science is, compared to many other industries, highly under-automated, or they've underutilized software, especially custom software in new organizations, for quite a long time. So there's no playbook for us. There's no here's the amazing, Google SRE book, and here's the amazing data engineering book. Like, of course, those we can learn from those areas, and there's lots that we apply, but there's no book for here's a lab and here's science and here's cell biology. Here's how you automate that. Even as a brand new young organization that obviously, would prefer to spend its resources discovering other things on a core to our product. So there's been a lot of learning about how to automate a lab, and then obviously on the fly, actually turning those into the tools and products that we need for success. This is a really hard question. It's a topic that we constantly think about. I think it's probably not even the right question, because to me, it's more of a question of what layer of abstraction do you work? I mean, you're short of you mining your own silicone, you're always working at some level of abstraction somebody else gave you, right? So it's a question of, do you work, for example, at like a product layer? So let's say, for example, you pick up Xero for accounting. You're like, I'm an accountant, I'm going to use Xero. That's like a product made specifically for you. And it's like, there's not a huge, Xero has a bit of customizability, but it's very high level, right? Then you can go one layer lower and go, I'm going to use like a no-code tool like Airtable, and it's still point and click, but I'm building my own workflows. Then you go, well, I'm using open source tools or other existing developer tools to build it. So you keep going down, then you go fully custom and no open source, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really what we think about, is how deep do we want to go for any particular use case or particular area of our business. And really there's a different set of answer for different use cases. The areas where we need the most flexibility and scalability, and also where the use cases are the most well proven, we look to go lower, because that gives us more fit for purpose results. We can scale it better, and we can kind of continue to adapt it and integrate it as we need. The areas which are really not that core or not that well proven out, or we don't need a lot of scale, like just basic operations, maybe for things like financial operations for a small company, we'll happily pick up a Xero. Or the areas which we think we're not going to be able to innovate on soon, quickly enough, like our electronic lab notebooks, we're not going to build our own electronic lab notebooks. We'll pick up a tool like Notion or Lab Archives to do that sort of work. So it's more about how deep you go, and we focus on things where we need flexibility and scalability and our core to our business. That's the ones that we tend to go lower level on. I'd say it's not so different to maybe compare it to a high value B2B app. So, we don't have millions of users, we have dozens, right? And even if at our biggest scale, it would be thousands, not millions, short of us, externalizing some of these things, products. So if you compare it to like a B2B business, what do? You go talk to your customers, you do regular accounts management, you do NPS, you ask them questions, you give them surveys, you look at their usage patterns like on a case-by-case basis, because there's only few enough of them that you can actually do that. So I think most of those tools apply here. The only the other difference is, though, or maybe there's two differences that are worth calling out. One is you have to hold yourself to a higher standard, because external customers take their business away. Your internal customers can't take their business away. So hold yourself to a higher standard, be willing to be more critical, because your users may not, walk away or be able to be as critical as they otherwise would be, because they're your team members. And the other is you have higher access. You don't have to rely on a once a month NPS survey. As you walk around, you can ask each and every single one of the users, what's the thing that's caused you the most pain? And for example, I have a one-on-one with our chief scientific officer. And some of the questions I ask every single time in our one-on-one is, what's the thing that, even outside engineering, just what's the biggest pain point that you have on the science team? What's the biggest thing that's slowing you down in terms of your goals, et cetera, et cetera. So I just use the fact that we have this higher access to its fullest degree, because that feedback is incredibly important to us doing our job well. One last thing to share is that we are hiring for software engineers here at Vow. So people who love food, love to work on a very deep stack, kind of working anywhere in the stack, from back-end systems all the way through to front end and hardware as well. We're hiring here at Vow. We've got a really amazing engineering team and looking to kind of add some incredible high caliber engineers. So if you're interested, please check out vowfood.com/careers and check out the software engineering role there.